Okay, today's lesson is 1.7. You'll find that on page 31 in your textbook. Today we're learning about multiplying decimals, and our essential question is, how do you multiply multi-digit decimals? Last summer, Rachel worked 38 and a half hours per week, or 38 and 5/10, at a grocery store. She earned $9.70 per hour. How much did she earn in a week? So before we actually do the multiplication, we're going to start with an estimate because that will give us an idea of if our final answer is reasonable. First, estimate the product. So they came up with 10 and 40. So when we're estimating, we want to round up to the nearest whole number. And so we're looking at $9.70. Well, that 7 affects the 9 because it is greater than 5. That means it rounds up to the 10. So that's where that 10 came from. Now here, we look at this. The 5 does bump the 8 up to 9. And we could have used 39 if we wanted to, but think about how much easier it is to multiply 10 times 40. So they chose the easier option. So let's say you did choose 39. That's okay. Then you would have 10 times 39, which is 390. And we'll come back to this at the end. 10 times 40 is 400. Do you see how those are pretty close to each other? So 390, 400 are pretty close. But you want to choose numbers that are complementary, easy to multiply together, so that your estimate is quick and easy. It shouldn't be a struggle at all. Okay, you can use the estimate to place the decimal in a product. Notice this time, in yesterday's lesson, we talked about how you have to line up the decimal when you're adding and subtracting. With multiplication, you do not have to line up the decimal. So we have a decimal over here, 38.5, and we have a decimal over here, 9.70. So we multiply just as we would with whole numbers, meaning we start with the smallest value first and work our way to the left. Notice there are 3 lines underneath because there are 3 digits we're going to be using to multiply with. And at the end, we'll add them all up, just like we would if we were multiplying with whole numbers. All right, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 7 is 35. Bring down the 5. Notice I've placed the 0 below the 5, this 5 below the 7, and then I'm going to regroup the 3. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 3 more is 48. So I'm going to put an 8 there. All right. Now I'm going to put a placeholder 0 right here because I'm not multiplying by the 5's place anymore. I'm multiplying by this 8's place instead. So my first number should come straight below the 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 7 is 56. Regroup the 5, write down the 6. 8 times 9 is 72, plus 5 more is 77. All right. Now, we're multiplying by this 3 over here. So we need to put a 0 below the 5 and another 0 below the 8 because we're not multiplying from those spaces. We're starting with the 3, so our number should come straight down here. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 7 is 21. I have too many numbers here. Regroup the 2. 3 times 9 is 27. Plus 2 more is 29. Okay, now we have them all lined up. We're going to go ahead and add. We have all zeros, so that's a 0. We have 5 and 2 zeros, so that's a 5. 8 plus 6 is 14. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. plus 7 is 12, plus 1 more is 13. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 9 is 17. Regroup the 1 and put the 3 out front. Now, where does that decimal go? Because they weren't lined up in the beginning. Well, the decimal, we count the number of digits behind the decimal in the original problem. So there are 2 up here and there's 1 down here that are all behind the decimal. So we're going to say 1, 2, 3 are behind the decimal. And then we're going to come down here, and from the right, moving left, we're going to scoop over 3 times because there's 3 numbers behind the decimal. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, and put our decimal right there. All right. So our estimate is about 400 or 390. So the decimal point should be placed after $373 because it should be in the ballpark of 400. See, if I put the decimal back here, that would be $3,000, not $300. And if I put the decimal up here, that's only $37. So the decimal, by logic, should be here based on our estimate. It should be close to 400. So the decimal should go behind that 3 right there. All right. So since the estimate 400 or 390, as we found up here, is close to $373.45. I dropped that 0 because we don't need it. The answer is reasonable. Now notice our 390 estimate is even closer to 373. So this was a perfectly reasonable estimate also. So Rachel earned $373.45 per week. All right, explain how your estimate helped you know where to place the decimal. So the estimate helped me place the decimal following the digit in the hundreds place. Because our estimate was 400, our final answer should also be in the hundreds place. All right, so what if Rachel gets a raise of $1.50 an hour? How much will she earn when she works 38.5 hours then? Okay, so I'm going to use graph paper because I think that helps us stay organized when we're working with decimals. So first we have to do addition. So we have to go back to yesterday's school lesson first. And she originally made $9.70. Make that decimal a little bigger. She got a raise of $1.50 an hour. Good for her. She must be a good employee. When I'm adding, I have to line up the decimals. So now we have 0, 0, 12. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 1 more is 11. Bring down that decimal. So now she's making $11.20 an hour. Per hour. Per, the word per tells us that we're going to be multiplying. So, and if she works 38.5 hours, how much money is she going to make? So let's go ahead and set this up on our graph paper again. So 11.20 or $11.20. 38.5. Now, when you're setting up for multiplication, you line up the values from right to left. So 38.5 would look like that. My decimals do not have to be lined up when I'm multiplying. Now before I begin multiplying, I know I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 lines below this, 3 lines of digits, because I have 3 digits I'm multiplying by. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Regroup the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 more is 6. 5 times 5 is 5. That's my first line. Now I'm multiplying from this space, therefore my first answer should come straight down here. So you can put a placeholder 0 or an X or something so that you know that you're not multiplying from that space. I'm going to use a placeholder 0, but something, I'm not multiplying by the 5s anymore. I'm multiplying by this 8. All right, so 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 2 is 16. Regroup the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 1 more is 9. 8 times 1 is 8. All right, now I'm not multiplying from this space, so I'm going to put a placeholder 0 again. Not multiplying by this space, because we're done with that. We are now multiplying from this space, so our first answer should come straight down from this 3 and be in this space right here. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 6 is 6. 3 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 3. No regrouping with that one. Now we add all zeros. All zeros. 6 plus 6 is 12. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 9 is 15. Plus 6 is 21. Regroup the 2. 2 times 8, sorry. 2 plus 8 is 10. Plus 3 more is 13. Regroup the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Now where does that decimal go? Okay, I look at the digits behind decimals in the original problem, count them up. I have 1, 2, 3 that are all behind decimals. These 3 digits are behind a decimal. So I start from here and I scoop 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And that's where my decimal goes. Now, based on our original problem, is our answer reasonable? Is she making, would she suddenly be making $4,000 in that same time period? No, of course not. She's still going to be making in the hundreds. So our answer is reasonable. She'd be making a little over $400 an hour now because of her pay raise. All right. So I did the work on the graph paper, so I'm only going to write the answer here, but your teacher loves to see work all over the paper, so be sure and include your work in your space so the teacher can see what's going on in your head. All right.